So I did something a month ago that I never would have envisioned myself doing ever in my life, and that is move 1,600 miles away to live alone um, in another state where I don't know anyone. So, how this came about is God leading me to do this. Now, this was something that kind of uh, came about suddenly or unexpectedly for me. So I had a cleaning business back where I lived, and I had been doing that about, I would say, 9 years. And within the last year, I was starting to feel such uh, discontent with my job. Now, it was something that I really enjoyed doing most of the time that I had the business. I really enjoyed working for my clients. I built a lot of, great relationships with them. And I felt like it was something that I could call my own. And I took a lot of pride in that. And it felt so good to have a job that I could create my own hours, my own schedule, and it just gave me freedom that I wouldn't have if I was working for an employer. But I noticed, uh, especially around the time summer came in 2025, is when I really started to feel like I didn't want to do my job anymore. I felt very burnt out. Um, it just felt like I was always drained. I didn't have the energy to do my job anymore. And it was very weird because I had been doing this for so many years, and it's not like I was working a lot more, but I just noticed I was feeling very disconnected from that part of my life. And I was feeling a lot of things within me just stirring up. Um, and come to find out, that was God, like, really stirring my spirit to like move in a different direction. So I I was getting increasingly just irritated. I was very uncomfortable, and I didn't really know what was going on. I would I would just drive around, like, where I lived, and I would feel frustrated, like, just driving and getting around everywhere felt like a chore. I was getting just frustrated with everything, and I'm like thinking, this doesn't make sense because I'm usually a very, like, chill, laid back person, and you know, I try to see the good in everything, and I try to be grateful, like, even if my situation is not like the most pleasant. So I was really wondering, like, after a while, why I was feeling this way, and I was like starting to seek God about it, about why I felt this um this way about everything. And I'm a person who sees numbers, and God has been speaking to me through numbers for quite some time now. Like, I'll see, like, repeating numbers, and that's just a way that God communicates to me. So I was seeing a lot of numbers, especially four, which, you know, I I was seeing fours a lot when I was feeling like, okay, maybe God wants me to move in a different area. Maybe he wants to relocate me. Because I always like relate 444 with the Bible verse that talks about a prophet not having honor in his own hometown. So I was starting to really like ask God, what is like is the four like what is it relating to? Like, does this mean that you want me to move? Is this why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling? Because it just felt like it kept getting stronger and stronger as the days went on. And I had been living in my apartment that I was living at the time for about 6 years. I moved in there right before COVID. So I knew that my rent was about to go up. It renewed in November. So I would get the notice probably around like August, September of like how much it was going to go up. So I get the renewal notice, and my rent was going to be going up like almost $300, and I'm just like, what? Like, this is crazy. My rent has gone up no more than like $80 a month, when it renewed. So this was a drastic increase, and I'm just like, okay, I really feel like I don't want to be paying that much more for a 1-bedroom apartment. And then the rental and housing market where I lived was horrible. Like, everything was so expensive, and even just like getting a small apartment was ridiculous, like for one person to be able to afford that. And I didn't want to move back in with my parents because like I just felt like that was me going backwards. I had worked a lot on myself, and I didn't want to return to like old habits and old patterns, and I just felt like it was going to hold me back from how I wanted to keep growing. So I felt like I was in this dilemma because I didn't want to be paying that much more for my rent, and I also felt like I wasn't like financially able to do it. So I just started seeking God. I'm like, okay, God, what do you want me to do? If you want me to move, I will move, but I need to know where. Like, at this point I didn't know what state. Like, I didn't even have any inkling of like where I'd be moving. So it was close to the time that I had to move out of my apartment. I had to be out by Halloween. Of course. So I had told my my complex, the management there, that I wasn't going to be renewing, and I felt good about it. I felt like I made the right choice, because I feel like if God wanted me to stay there, he would have made it so that it was affordable and had, opened more doors for me, like financially with my business, to be able to make it work. So I felt good about not renewing my lease. And at this point, I had decided I was going to move back with my parents, but very temporarily, until God gave me more clarity on what direction he wanted me to go in. So right before I moved back to my parents, I started noticing Texas license plates. And I'm like, at first it was like like a few here or there. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I would never see Texas license plates, like living on the East Coast up north. Like, it just was very rare to see any license plates from, like, you know, southern states or like southwestern states. Like, it just was very rare. And over time, I noticed like I would see them more and more frequently. And I'm like, okay, like my friend, he was asking me like if I had any idea of, you know, a state that I felt maybe led to like look into or move to. And I said, well, I'm noticing Texas for some reason, but I don't know if it's just me or if it's God putting that like on my heart. So I still at this point was unsure whether it was myself imagining it or if it was God prompting me. So I noticed once I moved to my parents, I noticed every time they would have the TV on, I would hear Texas. It would be something about Texas. And when I would turn like a movie on, every movie would have some character that mentioned Texas, that lived in Texas. It was like, it was crazy. And I was starting to feel like, okay, am I imagining this with Texas? Because it just felt so strange. And at that point, I'm really thinking, like, okay, this has to be God, like taking a 2x4 to my head about Texas, trying to get my attention. So I would still see the license plates. I would see stuff like on like food items I would buy. Like the product would come from Texas or it was manufactured in Texas. I would see like even food products like that would have Texas like right on the container. Like it was just like the weirdest things, the weirdest ways God was trying to get my attention about Texas. And so I just kept praying about it. And once I felt like he kept confirming over and over again, like Texas, that's when I started like doing research and I'm like, okay, God, like if you want me to move there, I'm gonna go, like, I'm gonna, you know, plan a trip to go out and check out the area that you're calling me to. So I, you know, prayed a lot about like where exactly in Texas he wanted me to go to. And I felt led to check out the Austin area. So I went out there with my friend in December and I had prayed before I went out there. I'm just like, God, if you want me to move here, just give me peace and, you know, help me to make the right connections when I go there. Like if you know, if you want me to move to this complex or if you want me to get connected to this person, just let it happen so that I know that this is your plan. This is where you want me. Because moving that far away is no big, it's like, it's not a little thing. Like, it's a big deal. And especially since I was going to be moving, you know, alone, it was a big step for me. So I wanted to make sure that this was indeed like where God wanted me and, you know, and not get that wrong, because it could go very wrong if that wasn't the case. So So I went out there and, you know, everything just like lined up. I did feel so much peace. I felt like, okay, this feels like where I could see myself living. You know, coming from a small state, small town, it felt so massive. In Texas in general, it's just a huge state. Like there's just so much open land, open space, and like I felt free. I felt like I could breathe finally because where I came from, everyone was moving there, and it just felt like people that like locals, people that had grew up in my state felt like we were getting pushed out, felt like we were getting suffocated in a way because of how many people were moving there, and it was just so small. There's just nowhere for people to go, and all the roads were getting congested. So like going to Texas, it felt like I was a little fish in a big pond. So I felt like the energy, the atmosphere was so different, and I felt like I could see myself really thriving there. So I got back from my trip. I had, checked out apartments when I was there, and I had met like a fellow believer at one of the complexes that I went to, and I really felt like that was where I needed to move to because of the conversation that I had with him. It felt like God had set that connection up so that I could have a way to move here, that I would know for sure that that was where I needed to go. So I get back home and I was starting to like just pray about it and seek God on what he wanted me to do. And I felt like he was telling me that the place that I had thought about moving to would be the apartment that I would move to. And it was really hard because my family did not support my vision of moving out there, even though I told them, I really feel like this is God leading me out there. This is not me just like wanting to move here. Like I never would have seen myself moving to Texas. Like if it was my own, decision, it would not be like on my top 5 of places to move to. So it was very, very difficult. Like I had a lot of opposition. I had a lot of people doubting me and questioning if this was like really what I needed to be doing, because my parents, they have never moved out of their home state, let alone their hometown. So for me to do this, it was really hard for them to like support it and accept it, like especially as a single woman moving somewhere alone. So I really had a lot of warfare as far as just getting to Texas. Like I had to really like put my foot down and just say like, look, this is what I'm doing. I understand like your concerns and you feeling like this is not what I need to be doing, but I know like within my heart like this is what I need to do, like because God has made it very clear that this is where he wants me to go. So I got everything lined up to move. Thankfully, the apartment complex that I was moving to, they had this special where, like, if you get approved by like a certain date, you get 2 months free. So I was like, okay, like I will take that. You know, especially moving somewhere that far away, I'm quitting my business. I don't have any employment lined up. I don't know what the heck I'm doing, like what God's gonna do. So it was very scary in a way, like to just like put all of that in God's hands, because I'm a very responsible person. Like I'm not the type to just like quit a job and not have something lined up. Like, and I am pretty responsible with my money. Like try to make sure I always have like money set aside, like saved in case something happens. So this was like a big leap for me. Huge. And thankfully I had enough money saved up from working so much over the summer that I was able to like pay for the moving cost and everything, because it is not cheap. So I decided I was going to move at the end of January because I had, the 2 free months. So I had like at least a month, like I was, planning to just have a month to get ready to move. That way I would have the other month, like I still wouldn't have to pay rent and all of that. And of course, there was a crazy Arctic storm coming like my way, and it was just conveniently going to hit the south, like this unexpected crazy like Arctic freeze and ice. And I'm like, it figures. Moving to one of the hottest states in the country and they're getting an ice storm when I decide to move, like you can't make this up. So I got a U-Haul truck and my friend was driving because I just did not feel confident driving a U-Haul like 1,600 miles with my car attached to it. With all, the U-Haul had all my stuff, and then, I got a dolly for my car so I wouldn't put mileage on it. So we decided to just like drive, to get out of the path of this storm. And we had to leave before the storm hit the East Coast, and then we had to like drive all along the Gulf so we could avoid the part where the South was getting hit too. And it was just crazy. Thankfully, we didn't run into any issues with the weather, but it was like as soon as we left in Texas, it was like we've gotten to Texas. It was like a Sunday night, and we were just gonna stay there and then drive the rest of the way Monday. And we had gotten to this town outside of Houston, and we went into Buc-ee's. And he was messing with this like little change thing. You put pennies in and it like makes it like a souvenir. You like crank this little like lever, and it converts your penny into like this little like souvenir with like like a stamp on it. It's hard to explain, but yeah. Anyway, this little penny thing, it wasn't like bolted into the floor. So like my friend was cranking it, and the little coin slot that comes out, it's like those coin slots that they have at laundromats where you put like the quarters in. He was like cranking this this lever, and it kept getting tighter and tighter, and that since this thing wasn't bolted into the floor, like he hit his head like really hard right on the coin slot here, and he gave himself a concussion. You know, we found this out because we went to the hospital later and they confirmed that he got a concussion from this thing at Buc-ee's. And it was just like, it was crazy because he blacked out for a little bit, and it just was, you just can't make this up. So we had actually started driving, and I'm like, are you okay? Like, are you going to be okay to drive? And he's just like, I don't know. Like, he's like, I'm having a hard time seeing. So we were freaking out. I'm like, we are not going to be driving through Houston, of all places, while you're having this going on, because it was one of those things you just don't want to take a chance with that. So he pulled over, and we just sat there, and we both prayed for him to be able to like get to where we needed to go, and then later we could, you know, check into a hospital, because we were looking for hospitals around there, and it's like every time we tried going, the GPS would like route us like in like a circle, and we just couldn't get to these places. It took us to like these dead end places, and it was so weird. But we just prayed, and we're like, God, please help us get to our destination, and then we can figure it out from there, because it was not good. So we finally get to my complex, thank God, praise God. And it was crazy. It was nuts, because like we're trying to get my car off the U-Haul. We were having issues with that. We were blocking people in at my place, and it just was like everything seemed to be going wrong. It was freezing. The weather was freezing there, and here it is, like Central Texas, and it's like in the 20s, and it's just like, what the heck? It felt like everything that day was going wrong, and we had seen so many signs on the way before we, you know, encountered all that day, that God was with us. Like, he was constantly like showing me like 222, 333, like those were like the numbers that I kept seeing. And you know, whenever I see those numbers, I just think of like him revealing secrets, revealing hidden mysteries. And you know, those relate to Jeremiah 33:3, and I think it's Daniel 2:22 or 22:2, one of the two. But yeah, I felt very confident and at peace about my move. You know, he was showing me like everything was going to be fine, everything was going to be okay. And even with that setback on that Monday, when I finally got to where I was moving to, I still felt like God was protecting me, protecting us, and was going to work everything out. So I've been here a month. I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't have a job yet. I don't know what God is going to do here, but I just feel like he's brought me here so that I can pursue what it is that he has called me to do in my life. He's you know, going to open doors for me, and like I'm going to be able to make connections that I wouldn't be able to make when I was back, you know, in my home state. You know, and I feel like for people, especially who come from a small state or small town, like so many opportunities and doors can open up for them that would not have if they were still in their home state, hometown. And also, people that you're surrounding yourself with, like that you have known you your whole life, they expect a certain version of you. And a lot of times they don't want you to, um, they don't want you to change. They don't want you to grow. They don't know how to, um, perceive or handle the new you, the you that is healed, the you that has grown. Um, you know, if you want to grow in Christ, if you want to heal from things like generational trauma, um, you know, addictions, patterns, behaviors that you have that no longer serve you, that are keeping you from becoming like who you're meant to be. It almost becomes impossible to exist in that environment with people that can't understand like that that new version of yourself that you have become, because you are no longer doing the things that you used to do, and being around certain people that you used to be around. And there's some people that just don't want you to grow. Because they're not growing themselves, they don't want you to become, you know, more successful than they are. And it's not anything about competing with other people. It's just, you have your own journey, your own path, your own calling. And, you have to honor and pursue what God is calling you to do personally. And then there's some people that just don't believe in you. And that's the biggest thing I've learned in this journey is like, I have to believe in myself. God believes in me. But I have to believe in myself, even if no one else believes in me, no one else sees my vision. Ultimately it's between God and I. And that goes for each person on their own personal journey. At the end of the day, God sees you and believes in you. And half the battle is we just have to learn to believe in ourselves. It has taken a lot for me to get here, to believe in myself and to take this leap. It is very uncertain and unclear at the moment, but I'm trusting that God's going to give me the steps, the guidance, like as I go, as I, obey Him. He's going to make things clear. He's going to provide. Like, I have 100% faith that He's going to provide and come through. And the thing is, I'm still kind of scared. I'm still kind of, worried, in my humanity. I still have questions and go back and forth between like, God, what are you doing? And then having that like complete certainty that He's got me. And it can be scary. But once you grow in your faith and build up enough trust with God, you can just rest in Him and just go to Him like a friend and know like He has your best interests at heart and He's not going to forsake you. Even if He takes you to a new land that is so unfamiliar, He's got you. And He's going to reveal His plan for you. If this is you, if this resonates with you, just keep believing in God. And if you don't believe in yourself, just ask God to help you to see yourself the way He sees you so that you can't believe in yourself. Now, if I can do this, you can do it. Because I used to be a person that I can never perceive myself doing something so massive, like moving that far away and not knowing anyone, because I just didn't have the relationship with God, and I didn't have the faith that was required to do something like that. And the only way I've gotten that faith is from God giving it to me and having that intimacy with Him. And a lot of that came from all the hardships that I experienced in my life. It led me closer to Him. So I hope this encourages you. If you are contemplating doing something like this, or, you know, you're in a place where you feel kind of lost and confused and you don't know what God's doing, you know, you got this. You can do this. You can do all things through Christ. And like I said, if someone like me can do it, you definitely can do it.